there is like there. I want to talk about this a bit more too. Like, there's an anti-psychiatry kind of bias in this country, I feel like, and that's true like worldwide. I'm not saying like America is unique to that, but in this country in particular, like it's there's definitely strains of that. I had a list of the different some examples and stuff. We might not have time to get to it now. Maybe later. That's okay. But like I imagine when, like you said, you tell people you're a sex therapist, you probably get like people probably think you're some sort of pervert or you just have, I don't know. I imagine that catches some looks and people who might not understand like what that actually means and the services you actually provide for people. Just people they're not told what a sex therapist is in school or in a health class or even honestly, a lot of places, they don't tell you what a therapist does. They just work off the stereotypes they see on TV. They think you sit on a couch and you talk about how you hate, I don't know, hate people in your life or something. And, or it's like, oh, I'm having problems with my wife. That's the whole old, just nonsense stuff you always see all the time. Not that those issues are nonsense, but it's just, it's right. It's a one note joke. Again, I go back to this. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know.
Yeah, no, at lunch today, actually, my partner was talking about a coworker and said something along the lines of like, if she only knew, the crazy shit you and I get up to, nobody at work knows that about me. And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that everybody I work with just assumes that I'm having like crazy, kinky, bizarre, creepy sex.
Yeah.
And, since doing secular sexuality, like I guess a few thousand other people too. But yeah, there is that stereotype that I carry, which I'm happy to because of the work. But people don't understand what that work is or what it actually means.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't help too that I feel like, what like mental health professionals are in this country, can be kind of elusive if you don't know exactly what it can mean, right? Like you can have a licensure to be a therapist. You can also have a licensure to be like a life coach. You can also have a licensure, there's all kinds of different certifications and stuff. And that gets confusing because you can talk to somebody that says they're a doctor, but they may be a doctor in like pastoral science or whatever it is, like we have this credentials problem, I think, and there's all kinds of quacks out there that try to make their money off that too by tricking people, and so it gets very confusing to the person who hasn't looked a whole lot into it and thinks like, yeah, I'm talking to this person who's a therapist, but actually they just took like a 20-day online course or something from some diploma mill or something and thinks that they know everything.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many of these coaching programs that are just multi-level marketing scams. Like we've had some good coaches on secular sexuality, like they certainly exist. It's possible to be a coach of various sorts. But it's important to recognize that that's not the same thing as a therapist, which is not the same thing as a social worker or a psychiatrist. And our society doesn't do a good job of making sure people understand that distinction. And I recognize that comes in part from the field, but just look at the defund the police movement this summer. People are incredibly uncomfortable with valuing or recognizing that social workers or these other mental health professionals actually have something to offer our society.
Yeah, I think part of it might be too is that just things have changed so much in the field and just in our society. And so people might feel like they've been betrayed in some ways because, oh, they were saying this 10 years ago and now it's different today. And, you hear that kind of stuff too. And I don't know, like I said, if you're not up to date on that kind of stuff, if you don't know, I'm the kind of person that'll be like, well, I know that the DRSM says that like homosexuality isn't an illness or something, like that's because I have conversations with people like you, like a Joe Schmo on the street isn't going to know any of that or I don't know. It's a tough problem. And I guess the best thing we can do is just, be more open about it, have more conversations and hopefully not let, these stereotypes keep going on in our media. I think you're right. I think it is changing. I think people are having better conversations on TV and other places about it, but there's definitely room to grow.
Yeah, well, and largely, I don't see any of these things making really meaningful strides so long as we're continuing to fund mental health the way that we are. The way that our healthcare system operates, there's barely an opportunity for appropriate medicine, and there is half that opportunity for any sort of mental health treatment. And so long as insurance is mixed up in it in the way that it is, and so long as we devalue it, it's not going to matter how open we are about it or how much we're talking about it, because people don't have access
They
to it,
can't
so there's
get
no
it.
interest.
Yeah, they
Right.
can't get it. Yeah,
So they're
that's so
not
true.
experiencing mental health treatment in any kind of
Right.
way, and it takes a while for that stigma. I mean, my 20 somethings, my teenagers are so incredibly different in the way that they view therapy than some of the older folks that I work with. And so I feel like there's reason for hope about changing some of those perceptions, but it is very frustrating to be in this, 100-plus-year-old field. And, even my own parents really have very little understanding and
Mm,
frankly pride for the work that I do. Uh,
mm.
and that's partly because religion casts so much doubt on it.
Yeah,
If Jesus is supposed to heal your heart, then what the hell do you need me for? Except that, I
yeah.
actually can help you.
That is the worst. I think that's the worst when people say like, "Oh, you're not depressed. You're possessed by demons." Like
Yeah.
I it boggles my mind that I read posts that say stuff like that, or a specific religious sects have talked about, like Jehovah's Witnesses and Scientologists, that talk about how psychiatry is basically all evil and is trying to influence you in certain ways. I mean, they're not wrong that it is trying to influence you, but more so to like think in more healthy ways, I guess. But I don't know.
Well, and I'm not going to say we do it to ourselves, but the tools of counseling, the tools of psychology are dangerous weapons in the wrong hand.
Mm,
And so
mm,
you see things like Nexium and these other organizations that
yeah,
lean into that and take advantage of those types of tools. And people are, reasonably wary. But if there was money and opportunity to actually experience this type of healing for yourself, it would change a lot of the conversation.
yeah, yeah. Well, here's to hoping that things will change so that people
Yeah.
can have those opportunities.